Okay, we are waiting momentarily for
This is Shuttle Launch Control at T-minus 1 hour, 47 minutes, 30 seconds, and counting. At the present time, astronauts John Young and Bob Crippen are working a problem with others in the cabin concerning the flow of oxygen to them through their helmets. They're taking a look at some of the quick disconnects, which are common to both of them. Both the pilot, Bob Crippen, and Commander John Young have reported that they are not getting into their helmets the proper flow of oxygen or breathing air. They're taking a look at what is common to both of those systems to determine what can be done. It's not expected to be a long-term problem. At the present time, we're at T-minus 1 hour, 46 minutes, 40 seconds and counting. This is Shuttle Launch Control.
Okay, you have heard that there is a minor problem, and although insufficient breathing atmosphere would not seem minor, people here are quite confident that the problem can be solved rather quickly. We're at T-minus 1 hour, 46 minutes, 26 seconds and counting. The stands are beginning to fill up now, the VIP area that you'd asked about earlier, Scott, beginning to get a lot more folks in over there. And as we approach dawn, we see a lot more press people are beginning to show up also. How does the traffic look out in the Brevard area?
Just talked with Officer Kennedy at the Florida Highway Patrol, and interestingly enough, Stan, they don't expect a surge of traffic. The feeling there is that everyone really who wanted to get here got here earlier, and they don't expect anything like we had Friday, but that could change as people from Orlando get up and decide to come into the area. It remains to be seen. Speaking of VIPs, one of a different sort here, NASA tells us that the Soviet spy ship spotted off the Florida coast before Friday's canceled launch has turned up again. Officials say the vessel, disguised as a Russian fishing trawler, arrived around midnight near the area where the shuttle's 2 expended fuel booster rockets are expected to come down. If all goes as planned, the boosters will come down by parachute in the Atlantic about 170 miles east of St. Augustine, and the Russians will be there to take a look-see. That ship is back again. It was spotted by the Vandenberg.
Well, it's good to have some of our old back again. We missed them for quite a while.
Do you think they'll catch any fish?
I don't know. They haven't been too successul in the past few years.
No. So nice that they like our waters. Welcome to Brevard, fellas.
We'll negotiate fishing rights later.
Right.
We're at T-minus 1 hour, 44 minutes and 53 seconds and counting. For Les Roberson, this is Stan Anderson at Kennedy Space Center.
That's 11 minutes, 45 seconds and counting. Everything going very smoothly in the countdown at this point. The booster test conductor ordered the gaseous nitrogen purge of the solid rocket booster aft skirts to begin. The chase aircraft presently at Patrick Air Force Base have been ordered to start their engines, and a check with all the test support team members has verified that they are go for launch. The main propulsion helium subsystem cockpit switches have been configured for launch, and the helium tank isolation valves are open. In just a few seconds, another check of the abort advisory system will be conducted. This is a visual signal that would go to the astronauts if it were necessary for them to abort. We're getting within a couple of minutes now of the final build-in hold that comes at the T-minus 9-minute point in the countdown and lasts for a duration of 10 minutes. One of the first things that will happen in that particular hold will be the retraction of the GOX vent arm or beanie cap out of the way. That has been up on top of the external tank. It has warm gaseous nitrogen, which is used to prevent any buildup of ice from the venting of the liquid oxygen tank. At the present time, we're at T-minus 10 minutes, 23 seconds and counting. This is Shuttle Launch Control.
And this is Les Roberson and Stan Anderson standing by at Kennedy Space Center.
This is Shuttle Launch Control at T-minus 9 minutes and holding. We are approximately 26 seconds away from picking up the countdown at the T-minus 9-minute point. 9 minutes remaining between now and 7 a.m. when we expect to have a liftoff of America's first space shuttle. The launch team has been briefed on the way in which a hold can be called to the countdown. During the final 9 minutes of the countdown, And we're coming out. We're at T-minus 9 minutes and counting.
All right.
The launch events are being controlled by the ground launch sequencer now. That has been initiated, and that will be in control up to T-minus 25 seconds when they switch to the onboard redundant set launch sequencer. The ground launch sequencer is a part of the launch processing system and operates by relaying commands to the orbiter's onboard computers, which then report back to the launch processing system that the commands have been executed. The primary job of the computers is to check that all of the launch commit criteria, such as propellant loads, temperatures, pressures, and other measurements, are satisfactory. The primary chase aircraft have taken off. A third T-38 will take off at the T-minus 5 minute mark. The timing of this plane is such a tight window that a 15-second delay would mean that they would not be in the proper position at launch. The sleek T-38 supersonic trainers have such critical timing because of the small fuel load that they carry. T-minus 7 minutes, 52 seconds, and counting.
And he didn't finish that, but this is shuttle launch.
Approximately 40 seconds away from movement of the orbiter access arm. This is the final arm, which was to be moved out of the way to provide for the orbiter to clear the tower properly. This may be a very interesting launch to watch from the standpoint that the orbiter is able to translate slightly horizontally as it begins to lift off, and it also does a roll maneuver which will place it, the orbiter sort of on its back as it goes towards the proper inclination to the equator. T-minus 7 minutes, 7 seconds and counting.
I'm sure he's pretty busy with what's going on out there.
T-minus 7 minutes and counting. And we have retraction of the orbiter access arm, beginning to move back first away from the orbiter and then to swing away. This was the walkway attached to the service structure and used by the crew to walk to the orbiter. The crew has been advised to lower their helmet visors. Very slow movement by the orbiter access arm. T-minus 6 minutes, 29 seconds and counting. The crew is beginning the APU pre-start. The start begins at the 5 minute point in the countdown. T-minus 6 minutes, 15 seconds and counting. The APUs are turbine devices fueled by hydrazine, which provides hydraulic power to change the angle of the engines and the flight surfaces on the orbiter. T-minus 5 minutes, 59 seconds and counting. Pilot Bob Crippen had begun that APU pre-start, which started about 48 seconds from now. The development flight instrumentation, which measures the stresses on the orbiter during flight, have been turned on, and recorders store information for playback after landing. T-minus 5 minutes, 30 seconds, mark and counting. Pilot Bob Crippen has signified the auxiliary power units are ready to be started. T-minus 5 minutes, 15 seconds and counting. Coming up on the 5 minute point. 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. T-minus 5 minutes and counting. We have had a go for APU start. APU start is in work. This is a start sequence. The final chase plane is taken off from Patrick Air Force Base. T-minus 4 minutes, 42 seconds and counting. T-minus 4 minutes, 30 seconds and counting. Once we get the APU start, we have a total of 12 minutes of hydrazine supply for running the APUs prior to a liftoff. Everything going very smoothly in this count. The APU start is complete. T-minus 4 minutes, 10 seconds and counting. As preparation for main engine ignition, the main fuel valve heaters has been turned off. T-minus 3 minutes, 57 seconds and counting. The final helium purge on the shuttle main engine has been started in preparation for engine start. The liquid oxygen replenish system has been turned off in preparation for pressurization of the tanks for the launch. T-minus 3 minutes, 35 seconds and counting. The elevon, speed brake, and rudder are being moved through a pre-programmed pattern to assure that they'll be ready for use in flight. T-minus 3 minutes, 20 seconds and counting. The shuttle is now on internal power. However, the fuel cells are still receiving their fuels from the ground support system for one more additional minute. Coming up on T-minus 3 minutes, T-minus 3 minutes and counting. The engine gimbal or movement check is underway to assure they're ready for flight control. T-minus 2 minutes, 52 seconds. The LOX valve on the external tank has been closed and pressurization has begun. After the tank is pressurized, the hold capability is limited to 3 minutes, 36 seconds. T-minus 2 minutes, 40 seconds and counting. The fuel cell ground supply of oxygen and hydrogen has been terminated and the vehicle is using its onboard supply. T-minus 2 minutes, 25 seconds and counting. T-minus 2 minutes, 15 seconds. The pressure in the LOX tank is at flight pressure. Coming up on just 2 minutes away from launch. T-minus 2 minutes mark and counting. The liquid hydrogen vent valve has been closed and flight pressurization is underway. T-minus 1 minute, 50 seconds and counting. Chuck Hannon has just said smooth sailing, baby, to astronauts John Young and Bob Crippen. T-minus 1 minute, 35 seconds and counting. T-minus 1 minute, 20 seconds and counting. We can see the purges of the main engines as we prepare for ignition. T-minus 1 minute, 10 seconds and counting. Liquid hydrogen tank is at flight pressure. T-minus 1 minute mark and counting. The firing system for the sound suppression water will be armed in just a couple seconds from now. It has been armed. T-minus 45 seconds and counting. T-minus 40 seconds and counting. The development flight. T-minus 20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15, 14, 13. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. We've gone from
Columbia.
Hey, il va le croche. Hein? Il va le croche.
Quelque chose, hein? That call up says it's Columbia is too high for ejector seat.
Ah, il est parti.
2 minutes, 4 seconds, standing by for SRB set confirmation.
Here it comes! Drop it!
Yeah, we can see it. Oui, on les voit. Moi, je les ai vus. Voilà la navette. C'est pas la navette, les deux patentes. Ah.
Mark 2 minutes, 50 seconds. Columbia now has 2 engines with the rotor treatment on. 3 minutes. Young equipment really moving out. Now velocity now reading 6,200 feet per second.
Aïe, aïe, regarde ça.
Mark 3 minutes, 15 seconds. Columbia now 51 nautical miles an altitude, 66 nautical miles downrange. Velocity now reading 6,500 feet per second. Mark 3 minutes, 30 seconds. Columbia now 55 nautical miles an altitude, 78 nautical miles
Oh, yeah, I
downrange.
saw it. Perfect.
Mark 3 minutes, 40 seconds. Standing by
Vinny.
for return status check emission control by Flight Director Neil Hutchinson. Columbia, give us ready to continue.
I get a good one. Hey, grand-papa, prends la fumée. Hein? Prends la fumée. Oh, j'ai tout fait ça. Ouais? Hey, moi, j'ai tout pris jusqu'à temps que les boosters sortent. J'ai fini le film. J'ai fini le film. Aïe, aïe.
Columbia continues flying forward, coming up on the 60 turn.
Okay, that's all right. Regarde ça, la fumée. Well, it was a beautiful day.
Ensuite, on va regarder à la télé.
Vraiment la fumée en dessous. Try not to forget anything.
I'll take the radio for you if you like.
You know. Oh, you gotta talk? It's funny? No?
4 minutes, 56 seconds. Columbia is lofting early in the second stage, is now being taken out of the trajectory as programmed. Columbia now 74 nautical miles in altitude, 181 nautical miles down. Glad you're enjoying it. Mark 5 minutes, 15 seconds. Columbia now 75 nautical miles in altitude, 202 nautical miles downrange. Velocity now reading 11,000 feet per second. A status check and mission control by Flight Director Neil Hutchinson. Columbia Houston, your go at 5:30, MECO, 8+34. Mark 5 minutes, 40 seconds. That call up from Capcom Brandon Stein says Columbia's trajectory, navigation, and engine performance look good. Columbia reading you loud and clear. Okay, you're clear, a little weak. Mark 5 minutes, 55 seconds.
Columbia, we just switched over Bermuda. Boy, should be getting better here in a second. Okay, that's good.
6 minutes. Columbia now 76 nautical miles in altitude, 280 nautical miles downrange. Velocity now reading 13,000 feet per second.
Columbia, Houston, could we have the cryo heaters, please? And Columbia, your single engine rota.
Mark 6 minutes, 25 seconds. That call up from Capcom Brandon Stein says that if 2 engine failure occurred, Columbia is capable of an emergency landing at Rotor Naval Air Station, Spain. Mark 6 minutes, 40 seconds.
Columbia pitching over now, diving to increase velocity, decrease altitude, giving Columbia her most favorable attitude. Columbia now 72 nautical miles in altitude, 373 nautical miles downrange. Velocity now reading 16,400 feet per second. Standing by for a single engine Press D'Amico call up from Capcom Brandenstein.
Columbia, your single engine, Press D'Amico.
Mark 7 minutes 20 seconds. That report says that Young and Crippen can achieve orbital insertion even if 2 engines go out. Mark 7 minutes 30 seconds. Columbia 67 nautical miles in altitude, 485 nautical miles downrange. G-force is building for Young and Crippen now, up to 3 Gs. Mark 7 minutes 45 seconds. Columbia's main engine slowly being throttled back now. Should be throttled at 65% at 6 seconds before main engine cutoff. Status check in the control center.
Columbia, Houston, your go at 8.
Mark 8 minutes 4 seconds.
Looking good.
Columbia now 63 nautical miles in altitude, 606 nautical miles downrange. Mark 8 minutes 15 seconds. Columbia now 63 nautical miles in altitude, 650 nautical miles downrange. Standing by now for main engine cutoff.
Mexico 25670 up at 220 feet per second.
Roger, Columbia, Miko.
Confirm shutdown. Columbia, the gem of this new ocean, now in space, not yet in orbit. Now standing by now for external tank separation.
Okay, we got SEP.
Roger, and we confirm the SEP, Columbia.
9 minutes 3 seconds. Confirm external tank separation. Columbia now performing an evasive maneuver, moving below and beyond and translating to the north of the external tank. Young should see it moving away out his window. Nine minutes 40 seconds, go no go status check and mission control for the first ohms burn. Given a go.
Columbia, Houston, your go for nominal ohms 1 and for APU shutdown on time.
Mark 9 minutes 55 seconds. Columbia now maneuvering to its ohms 1 burn attitude. Using the two 6,000-pound thrust engine, the ohms 1 will be posigrade, moving Columbia forward and higher on her flight path, placing Columbia in orbit. Standing by for ignition, 10 minutes 22 seconds. Columbia 67 nautical miles in altitude, 1,160 nautical miles downrange.
Okay, we got 102 on the left and 101 on the right, PC.
Roger, Columbia, they're looking good to us.
A status check in the control center.
Columbia, Houston, we have 40 seconds to LOS. Configure LOS. You're looking good burning over the hill. We'll see you at Madrid.
Okay, we got a second to go. We're in a 97 by 42 right now.
Roger.
40 seconds to LOS, that's loss of signal, but it will then be picked up in Madrid and relayed back to Johnson Space Center with satellite communications.
Shuttle Control, Houston, 12 minutes mission elapsed time. We've had loss of signal with Columbia through Bermuda. The next station to acquire will be Madrid.
So far, it's performing even better.
Still receiving data, however, in the control center. Right at shutdown, they saw the, right at loss of signal, they saw the shutdown of the ohms.
The ohms that they keep referring to is the orbital maneuvering system, which allows them to move around and actually to achieve orbit, and then to change your attitude while in orbit. And also, it'll act as a retro rocket to bring them back. And that's all checked out beautifully. Everything seems to be going better than really they'd anticipated, doesn't it?
The astronauts now are in a heads-down configuration. They'll remain in that configuration throughout most of the mission. It won't give them a headache, though, because in the weightless condition, you don't know whether you're upside down or not.
Doesn't really make much difference, does it? One of the most spectacular launches, well, I was going to say in a long time, but then it's been the only man launch in a long time. The solid rocket boosters, of course, put out that tremendous pillar of smoke that we're not used to seeing with things like the Saturn V. Beautiful launch. It did appear like it went straight up for a longer period of time than Apollo, as an example, before it finally veered over. All part of the plan.
It took 4 seconds to clear the tower, but it didn't seem that long.
No, it didn't. And spectacular launch, absolutely gorgeous, and things just seem to have gone beautifully. And at this point in time, from all word that's coming back from shuttle control, everything is performing at or above expectations.
We'll stand by until we get confirmation of orbit. They are committed now to space travel, though, at least one orbit around the Earth, or at least...
Madrid Comtech, Houston, air to ground 1.
This is Madrid Comtech.
Roger, you want to do an H5? I'm on a multi-access, air to ground 1 and 2.
Roger.
This is Houston Comtech, testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, test out.
Roger, both being and modulation are go. Air ground 1, air ground 2.
Roger, configure for the pass.
Roger.
Communications checks. The beep is a little irritating, but necessary.
I believe the ohms system, orbital maneuvering, will be used, if I'm not mistaken, 3 times before they reach the final orbit that they plan for. And then again, it'll be used at the termination of the mission to slow them down, bring them back into the atmosphere for their landing at Edwards Air Force Base at Rogers Dry Lake Bed. We're at 15 minutes and 15 seconds into the mission, and the loss of signal, incidentally, that we've been experiencing the last few minutes is normal, accepted, expected, as it moves out of the range of the facilities here at Kennedy Space Center. Columbia then will reacquire.
This is Shuttle Control, Houston, at 15 minutes, 30 seconds mission elapsed time. Flight Dynamics Officer Jay Green reports the ohms 1 burn was nominal. Time of ignition, 10 minutes, 37 seconds mission elapsed time. Delta V, 164.7 feet per second. Duration of the burn, 1 minute, 27 seconds. Resulting orbit, apogee 132 nautical miles, perigee 57 nautical miles. So Columbia now in orbit, not yet her desirable orbit. At the start of ohms 1, Columbia was about 400 feet below, 150 feet in front, and 350 feet north of the external tank. Also, Columbia weighed 4.5 million pounds at launch. She now weighs about 214,000 pounds. At 16 minutes mission elapsed time, this is Shuttle Control, Houston.
So we have confirmation of orbit. The orbit not exactly what they want yet, but that will be circularized a little later.
That was some kind of a diet from 4.5 million pounds down to a couple of 100,000.
Yeah, I wish we could